So good. All right, Brad. Well, thank you first and foremost for taking time to come and meet with us. We're really excited to partner with you and collaborate to help move forward the vision of I Like Giving. Can you start by just giving a little bit of your background, who you are and how you got here today?
Sure. Well, it's exciting to be at the global headquarters, right, of Human. When I first came in, I got to tell you, it just had that feeling like this could be a good place. This could be a fit. I want to give a nod to my son, Drew, who found you guys.
Yes.
And we had a great first meeting, and I knew right away we were going to be a fit. You know why?
Why?
Because you guys were generous with me. I needed to use your conference room right after for an hour. And we were just a brand new intro meeting, kind of, you guys were giving me your program and our team. So that felt good. But
little did we know.
But to know me is to know 6 words: entrepreneurial spirit, life passion is giving. So if you think about me in those 6 words, that kind of really is me. And it goes way back to maybe 10 and a half. And my grandpa owned a big commercial baking company. And I had just kind of become the oldest of 5. And this is important to note. It was oldest of 3 weeks earlier. We had surprise extra baby back then.
Wow.
Who knew? They didn't know how many were coming. And so our house was chaotic. And I started sneaking off with my grandpa on Saturday mornings to his bakery. And I would watch him bake these special loaves of bread. And then we would go all around the city, and he would be generous with his words to people when he gave the bread, or his money and some bread, and or some influence through maybe a letter of recommendation. So he just started that early on, modeling for me.
Yeah, that's great. What a powerful thing as a young person. So you have this generous influence as a young man. What were you doing from that point up until you started I Like Giving?
Well, like a lot of, I just said that, we were talking earlier about funny things we say when we speak.
In there as well. So
yeah. Well, thank goodness for, the human AI editing or whatever you're going to use on this.
Yes.
But anyway, I started with a lawnmower. So I'm one of those stories. And then I got a second lawnmower and a third. It was just the fastest way to make money in high school. But I found I loved interacting with people. And then I really realized I loved some risk along the way. So that rapidly grew out of college into a full-fledged landscape design construction business where we did really big projects around our city in Michigan. And I incorporated some of the things in my company that I had learned from my grandpa. I saw the way he cared for his employees and did things that weren't expected, but because he loved them and they were part of a family in a sense, I just picked up on that. Until one day in about 2005, I was on a run. And I'm a guy who has a faith perspective that things don't just happen. There's maybe a reason behind it. And so I kept thinking, what could I do beyond this great business that I built that would impact more people? And I got this idea, what if we inspired people to live generously? That's me, entrepreneurial spirit, life passion is giving. Grandpa modeled it. It's more fun to give. And so then I thought, as an entrepreneur, what do? I start something new, or I fix something that's broken. I couldn't find anything out there to fix. So I started I Like Giving. It was all around inspiring people to live generously. And if you want, I'll tell you the Genesis story.
Yes.
You want me to tell it?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, I came across a newspaper article. The kids were 10, 7, and 2 at the time. And it's a Sunday morning. I gathered them around, and I came across this newspaper article, like I said. And I said, I want to read this to you guys. Tell me what you hear. And so I began to read about how a Sudanese father and son were firebombed out of their village, how they lost friends and family. And they were now in Grand Rapids, Michigan, with clothes on their back and a few bikes. And the bike was how the dad got to work, and the other bike was the son's main toy. And as I read further, we discovered somebody came and stole the bikes.
Oh.
Can you believe that? So I said, well, what do we do? And my oldest son's like, we got to go get them bikes. And I'm like, you're right. We got to go get them bikes. So we jump in our minivan. We go to the bike store. We buy 2 bikes. We load them in the back. And then we pull up to this intersection, which is, kind of where you decide, am I going straight, left, or right?
Mm-hmm.
And my wife says, hey, idea guy, where do they live? I don't know. They don't put the address in the newspaper.
Bought the bikes before you knew where they lived.
This is what I'm going to bring you.
You are in Grand Rapids, though, at the time.
Yes.
Okay. It's not like you're out here in California and going to drive them across the country.
Exactly. We moved here years later. But, important to bring into my marriage just a little bit there. Like sometimes it's opposites attract, and I'm the gas pedal and activator. She's the brake, and we need both, not at the same time. And so I called this organization who had sponsored these refugees, and they said they live in this general area. They were kind of not very helpful, which led to a 4.5-hour goose chase.
Wow.
And going up and down all of these streets. We finally saw the house that recognized like the one in the picture on the newspaper. That's how we found him. And the dad came out, and no language ability to decipher. So he jumps on the bike and just starts going, I like bike. I like bike. I like bike. That was the beginning. We didn't know it at that moment.
Yeah.
Of I like giving. And 2 things happened that day, bro, that I want you to know. We pulled away, and my wife said to me, I kept thinking there's going to be hundreds of bikes in that front yard. Somebody else certainly is going to do it.
Yeah.
And she said there weren't any. I really think we had an assignment today. And then from way in the back of the car, one of those little kids, and this is why we even got connected to Human, because we want more kids to say this and experience this. They said, that was way better than us going to the water park today. And it just clicked for us. Like, you know what? That idea that it's better to give than receive, or give to get, depending on how you like to say it. When kids get it, like I got it, it sticks.
Yeah.
And it's how we're wired to be anyway. So what would happen then, just to move this along, is I would tell friends the I like bike story, just like I did you. And I get these crazy text messages like, I like cavities. Like, what do you mean you like cavities? And it was the code for tell me your story. And so I call my friend Scott. I'm like, what are you talking about? You like cavities? Dude, I'm sitting at the dentist's office. I overhear this single mom, crackly voice. My husband left me. I got these 3 young kids. $926. I can't pay it. Can I make payments? And he goes, I'm sitting there and all I can hear is, I like bike in my head. And he's funny. He goes, you know me, I'm introverted. I don't even know if I like people. But he says, I knew that was my moment. And so that's kind of that language of I like. And so then I just decided, let's call it I like giving. And so we started doing these short videos at first because we didn't see anything like that. And they went over 130 million views around the globe in our first 5 years.
Wild.
And people were sending in their I like story. And it just started to ripple.
That's amazing. I mean, those are powerful stories right there. For a lot of people, though, like they'll do one of those things and then they'll kind of forget and move on. Fortunately, you have other people texting you about cavities and other pieces. But how did you move from this place of, I did this one thing and it had an impact on my kids, and you've got your background, and you're a risk taker, but how do you go from that place to, I'm going to start an organization and really try and pursue and advance this mission across the globe?
Well, I just believe in the power of story. I think, I mentioned that faith piece earlier. You look in the Bible, it's just all stories. And I think stories are such a great teacher because they let you have the freedom to decide. Like, I didn't tell you to go pay for cavities or a bike. It was just a story. And I think if it's told well, we become the main character in that, and it affects us. But I also recognize that the more that I do things for others and outside of myself and understand the science behind it, that in fact, I live longer and I take less medicine and I have better relationships and I'm just a better version of me. Why would I not look? And so for opportunities to do that, what we say over at I Like Giving is daily, weekly, monthly. Like, because our society kind of, right? We have Giving Tuesday. And when is that? It's just before Christmas. I'm like,
It's right after you
Giving
spend all your money
Tuesday.
on Cyber 5. Yeah.
Right. And isn't it interesting that it's there? It's not like Black Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we're going to talk about that, let's talk about giving on Thanksgiving Day. So anyway, just had to say that.
Yeah.
But anyway, but I'm like, what about giving daily, weekly, monthly? And so enter in, I think, the secret sauce and beauty of I Like Giving. Over the years, I began to determine that money wasn't just the only way to be generous. I determined that in order for us to give daily, weekly, monthly, there had to be other clear ways that we could give.
Mm-hmm.
And so we developed through my journey and shortcomings, the 7 ways. So when I came in, I gave your team a wristband of these, and we can just, punch through them. The first one I often use is thoughts. So the 7 ways of living generously goes through all of our efforts at I Like Giving. Generosity of thoughts towards ourselves and others. I mean, what a powerful thing. How do I think about somebody and give the benefit of the doubt? How do I think about me?
Yeah.
Right? Our words, man, we know what that's like to be affirming and build somebody up and be positive, hopefully correcting privately and like affirming publicly is good.
Yeah.
And then money, that's self-explanatory. That helps other missional things. It helps even in a business. Money is good because you pay your employees so they can then be generous themselves. And then generosity of time. Right? We all have that 168-hour slice in the week. So how do we use it? What do you say no to so you can have your best yes?
Mm-hmm.
And then generosity of influence. Wow, powerful thing. I mean, many platforms that I've gotten into or podcast guests we've had have been other people sharing their influence, connecting me to somebody. So we all have those spheres of influence. And then generosity of belongings, how you share your stuff, and you get to decide what that is and how you hold that. But that gave us the framework that really, now what I Like Giving today works through all 3 of our initiatives.
That's great. So what a great way of like giving the background of the why behind everything and a little bit of the philosophy. So what then does I Like Giving look like today? How do you pursue the mission? You mentioned 3 initiatives. Can you share those with us?
Sure. So as we've grown up, since, incorporating as a nonprofit in 2010, we started with short films, as I mentioned, and we always have believed excellence is just who we are. We don't want to do junk. And along the way, I've written several books. I Like Giving and also Everyday Generosity. And I wrote that actually with my son, the second one, Everyday Generosity. But as we grew, we started to identify that in order for us to really fulfill our mission, we needed to do it through 3 initiatives. And so initiative 1, generous business, we work with companies to, what we say, how to help them live generously at work and beyond. I want to hit the heart of the person. I don't want to just have somebody leave something at the door. That's not how this works. And then inside of Generous Business is our top-rated leadership podcast called The Wow Factor, which stands for Words of Wisdom from extraordinary leaders to help others grow in business and beyond. Because we believe, again, that story is a great motivator. It's one of our core values. We don't have a lot of core values, but that we want to use story to help move people. And so that lives inside a Generous Business. And in addition to inside of that, I developed a program called Generous Leaders. And it's really this robust, interactive 90-minute jam session, if you will, that really trains everybody in there in a fun, interactive way on the 7 ways and how to specifically put them into their work functions.
Yeah.
That's very fun. Then Generous Family, which is kind of where we're leading off with you guys, is the initiative where our generous students for homeschool live. And so we believe that we've developed a world-class program that's 26 weeks long, and think September through May, that helps families really bring this into their life and helps parents teach their kids, kindergarten through 12th grade. And then Generous Classroom is all about kindergarten through 8th grade and more of a private oriented school focus to start. And you only can do so much at a time, as you guys and a team know. So we hope to follow that up with a public school offering at some point. But this whole idea of taking research and applying it to what we already intuitively and anecdotally know, which is that when kids get this message, like I did, so I'm kind of proof of it, when you get it early, it sticks. And it's where you first establish your morals, values, and even your worldview. And so I think most of us would agree, let's not let the world teach our kids, let's let us teach our kids. And so what if we could teach kids a better life and help them have less anxiety, help them have less depression? This is all just hugely research-based. It's a game changer, because generosity and anxiety can't live in the brain at the same time. Yeah. So here's an idea. Let's teach the generous life, then go do the generous life versus going to the pharmacy for another script. It's just my thought.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for kind of walking us through each of those areas and a little bit more insight into them. So we've kind of got your background. We've started this, talking about the momentum, but as we know, starting something up, or in business in general, in life, in nonprofits even, there are many challenges. Do you mind sharing with us one of your biggest challenges that you faced so far and kind of what that looked like?
Well, we could be here quite some time. We won't do that to all your listeners and your team here, but we just had a team meeting. And my son, Drew, who's on our leadership team, said to me, people need to know about the early days and how tight it was and how scary it was. And I had taken a screenshot of our checking account balance in 2014. And I'm not going to give you the exact number, but it was under $100. And I thought we were going to be the best poster child for starting up and crashing. And I passed that around, and Drew later said to me, you should have seen the faces of people. Right. And you might even have that story here, a human, like you come into this beautiful office. It's like, we didn't start here. And so I think there's something powerful about the word remember and beginnings. There was another time with Everyday Generosity, we decided to go on our own and self-publish because we weren't getting the speed out of the publishing industry that we wanted. And that was really cool. And we crushed the book, only for me to land in Hawaii for my anniversary trip with my wife, trying to unplug. And I get this frantic call from my son. And he says, they printed the covers of the book, and it says BBRAD. I'm Brad, not Bubba Brad.
Yeah. Oops.
So that was an expensive thing because all those covers, but you know what? Like, I'm going to say God put a little messenger down there in the printing shop, because for some reason that dude saw it and stopped the binding from the cover to the book, because otherwise we would have had like a tens of thousands of dollar instead of just thousands and thousands of dollar mistake. Those are just a couple.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's many, many more, definitely. So
thanks for letting me relive that nightmare.
I didn't mean to draw up those bad memories. But it is, so many businesses go through these kind of challenges, and sometimes it can feel abnormal when people go through it. And yet we realize that they are very normal and common. So it's helpful to know that others have gone through that and kind of how they've pushed through some of it.
Look, I tell you, that's where the wow factor, our team listens to the wow factor every week, and everybody has a 1-minute review when we have our team meeting the following week on what they took away. And it is amazing. You should try it sometime with your team, where you just go, people hear different things, but the number one thing that gives me inspiration is, holy cow, that guy saw his light flash before his eyes too.
Yeah.
And what, that guy had interest rates change, or what, that guy had you name it, that lady had this catastrophe. And it helps you realize, I'm never going to quit. I'm going to persevere, and I'm going to grow as a leader and learn how to navigate these. And those life stories and what other people have done, now almost 200 leaders, has really helped me become a better leader.
That's great. That's great. So before I ask you the next question, to be clear, in 2005, you have this idea and you've got this landscape design business. When you incorporated the nonprofit in 2010, did you shut down your own business?
Yeah, thanks.
So you're all in on this?
Yeah, I thanks. I moved fast on that. So yeah, I ended up selling the business, and it wasn't one of those big liquidity events where I've got years and years of runway. In fact, for some reason, I made money every year except the last year. I had kind of a manager inside the business who I thought was trustworthy, but ended up like not. I just said like again. You notice that? So we're the tick. So you call it out, and then maybe it's just so uncomfortable. You'll never say that 4-letter word again. It's the hope. But that guy just decided to sandbag jobs and go start his own business. And so that wasn't good. And I trusted him. And so we ended up losing some money. But I really believe that it was what I was supposed to do. And my wife is amazing. She stuck with it. And my accountant just the other day said to me, he goes, I never thought this was going to work. I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you for not telling me that at the beginning.
Yes. For better, for worse. Yeah.
I'm like, Steve, what are you talking about? You didn't believe in me?
Oh man. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe you would have preferred to hear it up front, but probably better on the back end. But so you're all in on this. You have these moments where the bank account has less than $100, these other challenges that you face. What has motivated you along the way as you face those challenges to push through and continue to pursue I Like Giving?
Well, I think first you notice the transformation, the heart change of people, and then them coming back saying, I never knew that's what generosity was. In fact, when we survey kids, many times high percentages have no idea what giving or generosity is. And yet when they come out of our Generous Students program, they got it. So you're noticing that we had USC measure a bunch of this information. The other thing is that we're the beneficiaries, because we're a nonprofit, of other people's generosity. And I just think about for them what that's like. In fact, this last weekend, I was telling you I was doing a talk, and one of our early people who just felt led to give to our idea was in the audience. And you should have seen their look. Like, they came afterwards, they're like, this is fantastic. This is what we, and it's like, wow, they still have plenty of money, but they got a nudge. They saw the vision, and they got behind it. And so we're so thankful for some of these families and individuals who have said, hey, we're with you. And we believe, like you believe, that a generous world is a better world for all of us.
That's great. That's really helpful to understand. So you're motivated by that. Let's kind of move into impact then. How do you, as a leader of a nonprofit, think about impact? So you've got some of these stories, I'm sure those drive you, but how do you measure this? Where are you trying to go? What are you hoping to accomplish?
Sure. I don't like the word nonprofit as much as I like for impact. So for you and your team and, everybody, like, that's how we see us. So we run like a business. We try to do everything with efficiency, with excellence, try to exceed expectations. And so when I think about For Impact, I just think about what's happened with the initial 3,000 kids that have gone through our program, and how over 75% of them at the beginning had no idea what giving or generosity is. They didn't talk about it in their family. They didn't talk about it with their siblings, of course. They were just clueless on a lot of our survey. And then at the end, we retested, and over 95% understood all of the 7 ways. They had talked about it in their family. They had actually been generous with their words to one of their friends in writing or in, speak. And so that's one thing. The other thing is the wow factor is in that generous business initiative that just continues to grow globally. And we're thankful for that. We haven't put any firepower behind it yet. Getting to know you guys might change that, but we believe that that's just these are good-hearted leaders all across the globe, many in the United States. Almost all of them I do in person, so there's a lot of travel involved with that, but we've just said it's so much richer. Can you imagine if we're doing this over Zoom? This would be falling much more flat.
Mm-hmm.
And like, just to be able to help other people, like, we believe that if we can live the brand, which is another one of our core values, that if we can help somebody tell their story and put it out there in the best light, that's a good thing. And it helps them and it helps us because we learn.
Yeah, that's great. Can you just give us maybe, you can pick which of the 3 initiatives, but one of the things that you're most proud of that you've accomplished over the last, call it 15 years through this effort?
Well, where I spend most of my time is with our givers and donors, and then working on the wow factor and a couple other, private elements of our work for families.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm most proud of the fact that I've been able to work with people that are way smarter than me that have helped put together this world-class program.
Mm.
It is absolutely incredible. And my gratitude level is so high. We didn't talk about that, by the way. That's one of the things that's a game changer. Just a little tip for your team and everybody listening is I start the day before my feet hit the ground with at least 3, if not more, things I'm grateful for. And I really try to change it up and not have it be the same every day. There's so much to be grateful for. And I think gratitude I want what I have. And we live here.
Yeah.
So think about how that doesn't work. But I want what I have is a really good thing.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. So 5 years from now, where do you hope to be?
Well, that's up to you guys. No,
Pressure's on.
Yeah. But, boy, 5 years from now, we are continuing to interview wonderful, good-hearted leaders all across the world and helping them tell their story. We're inside of hundreds of businesses, perhaps thousands, where we've trained others to teach the Generous Leaders program. We own the homeschool space where families are being transformed, and you guys are part of that story. And I'm not pumping sunshine on a rainy day. That's serious. I mean, there are lots of families looking to change their legacy and have something more than just what can we get for us. And then just imagine our classroom initiative where you have these 30,000 private schools engaging with this culture changing message of the 7 ways. And that's without me sharing other things I'm cooking up. So my team's like, okay, idea guy, you're done, come back and see us in 12 months.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. I love it. Those are such good things. You spend a lot of time in the podcast, working with business leaders, listening to wisdom, sharing wisdom. What would be one piece of advice that you would give to other founders, be it for impact or for profit, whatever type of business?
Well, I'm gonna steal one of the wows from my good friend Lindsay Snyder, who owns In-N-Out Burger. And when she was on episode 100 on the Wow Factor, her wow or word of wisdom, because I have every guest share that at the end, was be a vulnerable leader. And that struck me because she's got 42,000 employees. And sometimes you think, oh, a CEO, a leader, they have to have all the answers. And she would say, I'm become completely comfortable in saying, I don't know. And she said it's helped other people share their thoughts and help us get to the decision. And so, and of course, then that makes you humble when you do that. Yep. And so I think that's one of the wows. Another one is start to start. I took that from my friend Terry, who was on the podcast. And sometimes we can paralysis analysis, start to start. And then another one was vector change. And this guy was talking about how when you fly from Chicago to LA, the pilot's constantly doing slight little adjustments and vector changes, because otherwise you're going to end up in Mexico. And I thought, well, isn't that a good thing for us at I Like Giving? We have to be nimble. We have to be willing to say, ruh-roh, that's not working, and those little vector changes. So yeah, those would be three that just quick come off. I got 175 more to go.
I'm sure you do. No, those are great. I resonate with all of those. That last one of our values is agility. And so we definitely value that as well. You have a lot on your plate. You're leading this organization. You're traveling all over to meet with these different leaders. You're running a podcast. You're trying to grow up your team. You're potentially writing more books and cooking up other things. You have a wife. You have 3 kids. I don't know if you have any grandchildren. How do you balance it all? How do you choose what to prioritize and where to, how to make it all work?
Well, there's that age-old question, right? I think I'm reading a book on it right now because my team apparently thinks I need to work smart or work better. I don't even remember the name of the book now. I just remember it had a yellow cover and it's messing with me. And I think it was a guy, one of the guys was with Google, and which is funny because they're Gmail, and he's talking about not having your mail on your phone. I think what I'm trying to do is understand that I can't be all things to all people. And so I've really had to try to step back and look at where are my super unique gifts that I can add the most value to our organization, which means that I around me to trust, and then I have to delegate that and go there. I don't get it right every time. One thing I recently learned, which I really like, this might sound crazy to some, but when I come back from a trip, which is usually 5 or 6 days, that following day, I'm not doing anything. Don't put anything in my calendar. I used to come back and, I got to do catch up. No, I need to recover. I need to connect with my wife. And so this is, and there's things try to slip in, and I'm trying to really put a boundary around that. And when I'm home, it's hard when you love what you do, which a lot of entrepreneurs, you guys love what you do. You're here. So it's like, I'll just do a little more. And that's all good. I just think it's important to incorporate the physical need of breaks and exercise. And
that's great. Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. Appreciate that. All right, this is my last question for you. You're a story person. You value that. Many, many years from now, you're looking back on this season of your life, on I Like Giving. How do you hope that story would be told?
Well, I really hope that it's not much about me. In fact, a lot of our newest offerings really don't have my name, face, and voice anywhere, because I'm just a regular guy that with the last name that most people can't pronounce. So I really want it to be about the mission and the work. And I think even now we just created a kid's book, and it is so good. And they're like, hey, we got to put your, and I said, no, we got to come up with a fun name. And so like we're deciding, are we going to call it I.L. Giving? I don't know. We're just trying to come up with something fun for this kid's book, because it's not about me. It's about the message, and it's about the truth that it really is better to give than receive.
Yeah. That's great. Look forward to hearing that story in the future. And we're really appreciative of you taking the time to walk us through and give us the background, your story, what motivates you. That why piece is something that we really value behind the how and the what. And so that's so helpful for us as we think through it. But more importantly, we're just really excited to then be associated with you and your mission and all that you're doing. And we're really excited to collaborate with you to help you guys pursue that mission and advance it further. And so I think as we kind of move forward, this will be part of our why so that we can be true partners in this journey with you.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah, we're excited too. Thank you for being here. Thanks for taking the time to do this.
It's so great to have a live audience.